What are you about to do, Dragon?
I'm about to jump off a 6-foot drop. Hopefully I'll get it this time, but I may not.
I'm riding on a one-man wheel, powered custom built analog 36-inch unicycle across the USA. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna get myself into. Yeah.
My name's Ed, and I'm riding a unicycle around the world. Join me on this series as I attempt to cycle 4,000 miles across the United States of America. Last time, I stayed put in California, while I worked hard to finish editing my New Zealand videos. I also replaced broken kit, bought a drone, and planned a very rough route across the states. In a few days, I plan to make my way to the centre of San Francisco to begin my ride. Before then, however, there were a couple of people in California that I still wanted to meet. Cue the Muni riders of Silicon Valley. This bunch regularly take their one-wheeled machines off-road, and while I was in the area, I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to join them on the Chupacabra Trail in Santa Cruz. The stuff these guys were attempting on these trails was extremely impressive to watch. Corbin had some serious control over his 36-inch wheel, and Dragon? Yeah, his name's Dragon. Well, he just seemed to be absolutely fearless. I really enjoyed the relaxed nature of this ride. We'd all be pedalling along, someone would spot an obstacle, then we'd all spend the next few minutes trying to tackle it.
We have this thing on these rides though, to get a point. You get a point if you're the only one who makes it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that causes lots of crashes.
Who's made it so far? We got
1,
yeah, 2,
3,
nice,
Corbin, and you.
I made it as well. Mountain unicycling, or Muni for short, isn't something I'm particularly skilled at, so it was pretty inspiring to see firsthand what can be accomplished off-road. It was also just cool to witness whatever mad challenge Dragon decided to set himself next.
Hopefully I'll get it this time, but I may not.
I want to quickly interrupt this video by saying a massive thank you to all my new patrons. They are on the screen right now. And I want to say a special thank you to Elijah Legender, Mark Paris, Kelly Jackson, and Michal Dabski. Thank you very much. Woo. After the great day out riding, we all headed back to Corbin's place to mess around on some of his homemade unicycles.
Oh yeah, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, move away from the car.
This is Corbin's tandem unicycle. Made out of old bike frames, it's got 2 saddles, 2 sets of pedals, both attached by a chain to a single wheel. It was impossibly difficult to ride.
Okay, so we're gonna go straight with people holding us?
Yeah.
Strangely.
Oh, no problem. You guys got this, man.
Oh, no, don't go away from me.
I got you.
Hey, we got it.
Oh, you guys are record. Oh, shit.
Sorry, guys. Everyone okay?
Oh, yeah.
I was holding on to you. Can't afford it.
I
had
way
him,
too much. Him by the shoulder the whole time.
So would you say there's more risk on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the front guy can just run away.
Yeah, actually, since I couldn't see behind me, I thought we had the world record.
And of course, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to give it a quick go. Oh wow, yeah, it's quite sluggish, isn't it? Sorry about that.
Hey, so if someone asked Ed, on all your travels, what's the weirdest unicycle you ever saw? It's probably this.
By far. But then there is a recumbent unicycle hanging up in the garage as well.
And I've seen Corbin ride it down the street.
Yeah, that one's rideable.
This is Corbin's recumbent unicycle.
Okay.
Well, walk with me for a minute.
Yeah.
I'll just touch your shoulder.
Okay.
Jesus, this is flipping frightening. I took it to Apple and practiced in their parking lot for about 2 weeks before that. Yeah.
When it was like it is now, I mean, it's just so insane. Then.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Corbin was a little bit too out of practice that day to demonstrate, but here's a clip I found on his channel successfully riding the thing a couple of years back. You'll find a link to his channel down in the description, where if you're interested, you'll also find other videos of him messing around with other interesting builds. Before calling it a day, I just had to try the recumbent for myself. Yeah, it was never going to happen. I stayed at Corbin's place that night because the next morning we were heading out again on the world famous Rob's Ride. It's Sunday, so we're going to Rob's Ride. And how long has Rob's Ride been going?
20 miles long, and Rob's been doing it like 15 years or something ridiculous.
Wow.
I know it is a
Kevin, you and I have ridden
500
together
plus
long ago.
rides in the last 10 years, I think.
No, I was on
Wow.
a-
So,
That's incredible.
yeah, 50 rides last year.
And has there been a week where it's been not running?
There has been. We've done other stuff, and there's been times where we were just rained out, but even then, many rides where even though it was raining, we just kept going. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rob had recently broken himself, so wouldn't be joining us on this one. But Nathan, Kevin, and a bunch of other cyclists on various forms of wheeled transport were coming.
Could I ride it around the world? No.
So we were set to be quite a convoy out on the 20-mile loop of Santa Cruz. In total, we were 1 tandem, a handful of regular bikes, 4 unicycles, and 1 recumbent. The route took us on-road back to the wood we were messing about in yesterday. As well as Corbin and Nathan on unicycles, John Foss had also made it down. As guys who had all contributed so much to the sport of unicycling, it was an honour to ride with them. While we were on the trails, some of the guys couldn't resist challenging themselves on the log obstacles. Bit of a serious log jump coming up. Corbin, you can go for it. Oh.
Come on, come on, come on.
Come on, Grace. Onwards, we reached the town of Santa Cruz. Chatting to Kevin, he told me how he originally became part of this group.
I rode a unicycle as a kid, didn't ride for 25 or 30 years. We were riding this tandem up in the hills and we saw these guys on unis and they let me hop on one of these big wheels. I was able to ride it, so that night I ordered one at Unicycle.com and I've been riding every week since. That was 5 years ago.
I've always loved the way cycling just brings people together. Be that on one wheel or two, it seems to have an uncanny way of just connecting good people. As we completed the 20-mile loop and Corbin drove me back to Cupertino, I felt very privileged to have experienced the weekly tradition of Rob's Ride in this little corner of California. Okay, so right about now you must be starting to wonder if I'm ever actually going to start my trip across the States. I got a bit distracted, alright? But the answer is yes, and by now, with the New Zealand videos edited and equipment sorted, I was finally ready to make my way to San Francisco. And luckily for me, a guy called Darren had got in touch, offering me a lift to the city and a bed at his hostel when we got there. Amazing. I thanked Ben and Amber for their hospitality and hit the road with Darren.
So yeah, I'm Darren Overby. I own Pacific Tradewinds Hostel in San Francisco. I've been running it now we're going on our 26th year. And we've always been a little different. We're not just about, the money. We're really keen on making sure that budget travelers have a good time when they come to San Francisco, regardless of whether they stay with us or not. And we're always, of course, also on the lookout for people like yourself who are really interesting travelers, those kind of vagabond travelers. And we will frequently just say, hey, just come stay in our community because you add a lot of spirit. I've been in a lot of hostels that they only have like a microwave oven. That's not a kitchen. So we have a proper stove, utensils. A lot of hostels will do a free breakfast. We do free peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can have free peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And we just started free ramen noodles. Also, if you want to mix it up and go crazy, you can have ramen noodles as well.
Brilliant.
So one of the things we found is that travelers walking around the hills of San Francisco, they need their socks washed, and it actually makes for a more pleasant environment in the hostel as well. So we do sock wash every night, and they all just go into the same load of laundry, and then we take them out when they're all clean, and then we have them here, and everyone tries to figure out whose socks are who, and that in itself is a social experience. It's a great way to make friends, where you're like, no, I think that's my sock. Oh, this is your sock? Really? Wow. And so it's true. This is what you can experience in a hostel.
The next day, Darren and I headed out into the streets of San Francisco because there was one particular famous road I wanted to see.
Filbert Street is noted as the steepest street in the United States. So we're in San Francisco, and obviously we're known for our steep streets. But this one in particular is, it's monumental. When you come off, the cars only go downhill. You can't even see the road. It's just like you're going off the end of the earth.
Faced with the challenge of conquering the steepest street in the USA, I just had to give it a go.
Alright, so you might be thinking, Ed, that was a terrible effort, and yeah, it was, but that is a steep street. But luckily, you've got a secret weapon, haven't you?
Well, I brought up my 20-inch unicycle, and Ed says that this will be much easier for him to go up.
While unicycles don't usually have gears, you can effectively down gear by simply reducing the wheel size. This shortens the distance you travel in one pedal rotation and gives a major climbing advantage. This is why I borrowed Darren's 20-inch, because for Filbert Street, with a max grade of 31.5%, I was going to need all the advantage I could get.
Hell yeah! Unicycling up the steepest street.
And before you ask, yes, I did also cycle down. Next up on Darren's cycling sightseeing tour, we headed to yet another famous San Fran road.
Alright, come down to Lombard Street now. It's pretty much just 2 blocks from Filbert. Not going to ride up this one, but might ride down. We'll see.
The turn of the century, 1900s, a lot of the streets in San Francisco used to be crooked like this so that the horses could get up and down the street, because the streets were so steep, the horses couldn't make it up and down. But this was one of the few streets that they actually preserved and made it a tourist attraction. We're seeing it during the winter. Normally in the spring and the summer, it's full of flowers all the way up and down, and today seems to be landscaping day, so you see a whole bunch of landscapers out there preparing for the spring.
To celebrate the drop of Ed Unicycles the USA, I've released a new clothing design. These t-shirts are available in a selection of different colours. And this hoodie will keep you warm while out riding. Also, consider drinking your morning coffee from a mug with my cartoon face on it. Check out all this stuff through the Teespring link in the description. Now back to the episode. That afternoon, Darren drove me away from Pacific trade winds to his home on the other side of the bay, because the next day was the day I was starting my tour across the States.
A little quieter, a little bit more room to pack your bags.
Yeah. I'd arranged a grande depart at the base of the Golden Gate the next morning, with an open invitation to anyone who wanted to cheer me off. Darren had kindly offered his guest house as a place I could quietly prepare myself and the unicycle for the 4,000-mile journey ahead. Alright, today's the day. Leaving, well, starting my trip across the USA today, which is quite exciting. It's 8 o'clock. I leave at 11 o'clock from Fort Point, which is below the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's where I'll be starting my trip. I packed up my 35 kilogram unicycle, gave it a test ride to check that I could still get on the thing.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
And finally, I was ready to go.
Off again.
Off towards Fort Point. All right, Darren.
All right.
I'll see you on the other
See you
side.
on the other side.
There's no time to sit down and pray.
This bridge is kind of the reason why I started the ride here in San Francisco. I could have pretty much started anywhere on the West Coast, but I decided, you know what? I want to ride across the Golden Gate Bridge. It's pretty iconic. So that's why I'm here, that's why I'm doing this. That's why my US ride, Ed Unicycles America, is starting in San Francisco.
That's insane. How far are you traveling?
We're on about 17,500 miles so far. How's it going, Kevin?
Hey, good. Here to see you off on your last leg of your journey.
Oh, no, cheers for coming out. And you say there's 8 unicyclists waiting at Fort Point.
More or less, there's a few of us here to see
Great.
you off.
Grand.
Amazingly, around 20 people were there at Fort Point to show their support. Some of the unicyclists I previously met, but also people like Sam who had just come across me and my ride online. Sam didn't unicycle, but he did ride this motorised one-wheel thing. I reckoned it was cheating, but I let it slide because he gave me some cured meat.
Like putting, like, it's light
wow.
and thin,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like a delicious delicacy. You can add it to your food or whatever.
I'm not refusing that. Thank you very much.
Right, straight from Barcelona.
Jim Sowers also made it down, and he very generously gave me one of his homemade rear view wrist mirrors.
I would do it like that, so that when you hold your arms straight up, boom shaka.
Thank you, Jim. Eventually, 11 o'clock came, and it was time to begin my final continent.
There it is. Oh yeah!
And just like that, I had begun my 5-month, 4,000-mile journey across the USA. What an adventure this was going to be.
All right, pretty standard stuff. New continent, need to dip the wheel in the water. We'll dip it again when we get to New York. It's going to be about 4,000 miles from here. What an amazing event it was yesterday. That was incredible. I haven't had such a big group of people sort of ride with me on this trip since I left the UK like almost 3 years ago. So thank you everyone that came out to support me. It was amazing, and it made it very easy getting through the city as well, because I didn't need to worry about navigating myself. I could just rely on you guys to help me through. So thank you. This is where I camped last night. It's a place called Grey Whale Cove. You're not supposed to camp here, but I ran out of options. It got too dark. The road was getting pretty hairy, so I was like, okay, I need to get off the road and find somewhere to camp. So this was it. So this is my first campsite of the USA. I'm hoping to find some much better ones in the next 4.5 months when I'm crossing the country to New York. Anyway, gonna pack this up, gonna get on the road, but pretty excited to keep moving on this trip. It's really good to get back on the road. I love the freedom again. It's that stage of the ride where sort of aches and pains haven't really started yet, so you can just enjoy being on the road without really having to deal with much pain. For instance, my crotch is feeling really good, but I know that within a few days it's going to start to sort of saddle sore up. But whatever, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about now and just enjoying the road.
This is where I'm leaving you for this instalment. Cruising down the Pacific Coast Highway, just a few miles into the crossing of my 4th and final continent. Without much of a plan and 5 months left on my visa, I had buckets of time to explore what I hoped would prove itself to be a very hospitable country. But to find out, you'll have to come back next time. If you're feeling impatient and can't wait for next week's video, you're in luck, because the next episode is available right now on my Patreon. And if you're feeling really impatient, you can head over to Vimeo and watch the entire Ed Unicycles the USA series from start to finish over there. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Well, this old thing ain't built for speed, but I love my trusty dusty steed. It'll get me around the world soon, and I'll try a full moon. I know my route is roundabout, but I sure as hell don't have a doubt. It'll get me where I'm going, as long as the wind is blowing. I'm well aware of dangers out there, and it's not that I don't care.